Welcome to the Life with Joey Calvo podcast. I am Joey Calvo. So this podcast is being sponsored by US Meds, a trusted supplier of diabetes equipment with 30 years of experience. It has great news for people living with diabetes like I do. You may be eligible for a continuous glucose monitor if you use insulin or have problems with or problematic hypoglycemia, and eliminate finger sticks. Shipping is free. We bill your insured directly. So call and get your glucose meter at 800-420-2155. Also, if you haven't heard the last couple podcasts, I kind of been saying that the podcast is about to expand. Well, Saturday, we took that first step. And so there we go, folks. Hopefully by the summer, we will be on WPPM LP in Philadelphia, as well as Philly Cam TV by the summer. And so after this podcast is over, I'm going to learn the TV part of it. So there was a lot I learned on Saturday, and I was so pumped up, and I've already submitted prior episodes. So today our guest is Alexandra Reid, and so her story is entrepreneurs are being told to push harder in a time when most nervous systems are already on red alert. We already dealt that. She burned out first as a plant molecular biologist and later as a medical device quality and regulatory specialist, where long hours, constant problem solving, and responsibility just ate her up. So, Lexi, welcome to the podcast.
Thanks, Joey. Glad to be here.
So, the first question I have for you is, who's Lexi Reid? How did we get to what I just led to?
Yeah. Let's see. Well, we could go back to early days. I was always a creative kid. I was artsy, craftsy, but also very curious. And so I went into science for lots of education. I did a bachelor's, a master's, a PhD, a postdoc. So I did pretty much the whole academic ladder. And then I decided I was tired of doing research in the lab. My colleagues and I joked, we called it research because we were redoing it all the time. And I ended up going to work for a not-for-profit. And from there, I worked for the federal government, got into corporate, and then became an entrepreneur. And one of the main reasons I became an entrepreneur is because I was burning out in corporate. It was a high stakes, definitely during the pandemic. We were a medical device company. We'd won a big government contract to make emergency ventilators. So if you remember back in the days, there wasn't a vaccine available. So we thought we were all going to need these ventilators to breathe. And we were working from home. I was trying to homeschool kids. I had one daughter in middle school, a son who just started high school, doing all the things. And I pretty much burned myself out. I couldn't even go into my studio, which you can see behind me. And I would just stare at the supplies. And I was totally burnt out creatively, burnt out from working, burnt out for being a mom, like you name it. So that's kind of what led me on the journey to being, I call myself a creative wellness coach. And that kind of brings us up to today, pretty much.
Okay. So you were a plant molecular scientist. You did all these things. You were homeschooling your children. You were being super mom all at once. And now you're taking the next step as a creative wellness coach. So now you mentioned in your bio to me about STEM, and one thing I could picture or eventually picture is there's a Saturday morning show on CBS called Mission Unstoppable with Miranda Cosgrove, and they kind of blend in about STEM and all that stuff. I mean, I could picture you being on that show talking about this. So explain a little bit more about what a creative wellness coach is going to be doing.
Yeah, the easiest way you can think about it is I take a lot of concepts from art therapy, but art therapy is very past reflective, like you're looking backwards,
Mm-hmm.
whereas coaching is very forward focused. You're working towards goals, you're being present, you're looking towards the future.
Mm-hmm.
And coming from medical devices, there's a big difference between what a true medical device was and what a wellness device is. And a wellness device, you can think of it is like a Fitbit, a Garmin. It
Right.
helps you stay healthy, right?
Right.
Whereas like earlier, you mentioned the glucose monitors, right? That's a
Mm-hmm.
device that's meant to diagnose. It's a treatment, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's once there's already an illness, a disease in place.
Mm-hmm.
And often art therapy is used because, people are going through trauma and they're trying to deal with it. Whereas I like to take the visual exercises and use them in coaching practices and help women in STEM, so science, technology, engineering, and math,
Mm-hmm.
tap into a more playful, less rigid side. We're very used to being super, detail focused, high pressure. Quite often we're working in, often very male dominated environments as well. So it's very difficult to show our feelings. We don't want to show it as weakness.
Mm-hmm.
And so by using these visualization tools and drawing, I let those women sort of relax and tap into being less perfect, right? Like you can give up your perfectionist tendencies. There isn't a point in making good art. It's more about getting things that were in your head swirling around onto paper, and it gives you a chance to see things with a different perspective.
Okay. All right. So, explain a little bit of what type of visual exercises you would use.
Sure. There's one called the bridge. It's pretty straightforward. You basically draw where you are in your present circumstances, your situations, your challenges on one side of the shore. And then on the other side of the shore, you draw what makes your ideal day, whether it's like a week from now, a year from now, 10 years from now, like where do you want to be? What does that look like?
Mm-hmm.
And then you can draw a bridge of any manner, right? Like I leave it up to the women I work with to draw, and also where do they have to notice themselves crossing over? Like, are they crossing over rapids? Is there a troll under the bridge? And what's interesting is once they've drawn these images, and they're very personal, and, I'll talk to them afterwards. And there's a good part of the coaching comes up afterwards. And we're reflecting on what they put down on paper and also what they didn't put down on paper.
Mm-hmm.
And what's interesting is you can draw any bridge you want. And most women draw these rickety bridges with like little wood platforms and a rope that's fraying, and they're crossing over these, rapids. And, one woman said, I'm not even near my bridge. I haven't even stepped foot on it. And it's interesting that they put, and another woman said, I'm my own troll. I'm getting in my own way. I'm blocking myself from continuing across this bridge to where I want to be. So that's a simple exercise, right? Like it's not meant to be good art. It's just meant to mean something personal to you. And it's a way of seeing things in a different perspective. Like drawing taps into a different part of your brain than writing does. So journaling is terrific. I definitely use journaling as well. But sometimes drawing a picture, it is worth 1,000 words, right?
Right.
And you can look at it a week later, a year later. It's a snapshot of how you were feeling and thinking in the moment as well.
Okay. So I'm going to throw it back at you for this.
Okay.
All right. So let's go through this exercise and you explain what your bridge is like.
Okay. So my bridge, and this has been an interesting process. So I mentioned earlier, I'm in the middle of selling my house. And one of the reasons I'm selling my house is because I'm in the process of building my dream house. Okay. Currently, if I picture the future, once I've crossed the bridge, we'll come back to the bridge. When I cross this bridge, I can see my house. It's surrounded by a forest. It overlooks the ocean. Current circumstances, it's a pile of mud. It is we've had a excavator on site taking down trees, digging
Mhm.
up the mud. It looks like a wasteland right now.
Okay.
And it's, that's my present circumstance.
Okay.
Right. So, and also, selling a house, right? So, all the stress of dealing with,
Mhm.
people, strangers, and coming into your house and having it to look perfect all the time. And
Yeah.
so that's the current circumstances.
Mhm.
So if I want to picture getting ahead to this future house, my new
Mhm.
house,
Mhm.
I want to have a stone bridge. I want it to be solid. And,
Okay.
when I'm picturing this bridge, there's a beautiful walk I go on, and it looks like something out of medieval times. It's a
Mhm.
curved bridge, it's stone, it's solid. But I also realize there's some cracks in it. So I got to watch out for those cracks, so I
Okay.
have, right?
Mhm.
So that's part of the exercise is I want to get to that future self in that future house, but I do know there's quite a long way, and I may have to carry some of those rocks with me to continue building the bridge because it may not get all the way there. Maybe it's a bridge in process. It feels a little
Okay.
bit like a bridge in process.
Okay. So let me. I'm gonna bring up a scenario, and because um, it's just something that may be new for you to look at in reference to it. Um, and I'm just gonna say that someone had a had had a amnesia, wind up having a concussion, and had a loss of memory.
Okay.
Okay, and they're rebuilding their lives, and so, like I said, this may be new because in reference to it, but how would you, as a creative wellness coach, help someone rebuild their life um, in reference to understanding who they were before this happened, and helping them rebuild the bridge that they had?
Yeah, I think I would start it even a step before the bridge. I think I would say, let's talk about what could be a favorite day for you, right? And talk about the feelings and what needs to be in that picture. Are there people in that picture? Are there animals? Is there a pet? Are you outside? Are you inside? Is it warm out? Is it snowy out? Like, and they'll, they'll basically go, well, it doesn't, maybe it is a sunny day, but maybe it's a sunny winter day, right? Like I'll start asking them questions to kind of tease out what resonates with them, right? What feels good, what feels like a right fit for them.
Right.
Because a lot of that is very instinctual, right? Like you'll gravitate to certain things. Like if you're an introvert, maybe you like being away from people. If you're an extrovert, maybe you want to be at a party, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I think there's things that are very intrinsic to us,
Mm-hmm.
even without the direct memory associated with it.
Okay. All right. So bringing them back to how they were before this happened is, you're just having them think about, what was there before it happened, which is great. And then, once you get that started, then you start to build the bridge that they were working on before it happened, which is a great thing. So in reference to how people, like, if there are people right now that are interested in wanting to build the bridge, wanting to improve who they were, getting going through the burnouts that they have, and maybe even catching, bringing back something that they may have forgotten in their past, even, and want to reach back to it and, bringing it forward. How can they reach out to you in reference if they're interested in coming to you?
Yeah, easiest thing is finding me on the internet. I think we're all these days living on the internet, some form or fashion. I have a website called Mind Art Wellness, and I think of it as the mind plus art equals wellness, right? That's the science part of me. And there I have a whole bunch of free resources. I send out a weekly newsletter with different creativity, mindset, wellness tips. I also have a free challenge, which comes out via email for 5 days. And each day you get a little video demonstration of me doing one of these exercises, like the favorite day. And it has a series of questions that you can reflect on. And if you want, you can journal about them, or you just think about them, right? Or maybe just jot down a few words that come up while you're going through the exercises. Yeah, that's probably the easiest way if they're interested to get a taste of what, creative wellness coaching's like.
Okay. And what's the website?
mindartwellness.com.
Okay. Let me pull that up. Put that up. So just bear with me one moment. There we go. All right. Perfect. So you can go to mindartwellness.com and you can reach out to Lexi in reference to it. And you can learn lots of things and even bring back maybe some memories that you had that you never got the opportunity to want to achieve, and build this bridge, or whatever other exercises there are that Lexi would suggest to improve you as a person, improve you for who you really are. So definitely reach out to Lexi. Now, Lexi, as we mentioned the one exercise about, is there any other type of exercises that you use in your coaching besides the bridge?
Oh yeah, I've got like I call it my creative toolkit. So I have, I think upwards of 100 different types of exercises. So what I'm starting to do with my clients, like I had a group program called the Creative Reset Program, where it ran for 12 weeks, and each week we explored a different theme, whether that was toxic relationships or setting boundaries or just establishing, how to fill your cup, how to, basically keep yourself energized. We had one exercise where you draw very simple rectangles and they're batteries, and each battery represents a different aspect of your life, whether it's work, family, relationships, self-care. And you basically draw on the battery, like, picture your phone battery, is it at 50%? Is it at 80%? Is it at 20%? And start figuring out what would bring it up higher, or right, if you want to do less of it, what would bring it down? Like, can you delegate? Can you say no to certain things? Right. And again, seeing people, putting that on paper and actually sort of taking time to consider where your energy is going and what's filling you up and what's depleting you. That's a very simple exercise, right? Like it's drawing rectangles.
Right.
Yeah.
So you're kind of making now, like I said, or like you mentioned, and science and mathematics, of course, make me remind, as you're explaining about the drawing the rectangles and connecting them. It's like building a flow chart.
Yeah.
Literally, that's literally what it is. You're building a flow chart for your life, and that's good. Now, so definitely go to mindartwellness.com, and Lexi would be happy to help you get to where you want to be and help you build the bridge, or any of those other creative tool exercises that she may have that would give you the strength to be that person that you achieve to be. Now, Lexi, one last question I do have in reference to it is, and you kind of touched with it in reference to the bridge exercise I threw at you, back at you. Where do you see Lexi Reid in 10 years?
In 10 years, I'll be, as I said, hopefully in that beautiful house overlooking the ocean, having my client calls, and I'd love to run in-person retreats. It's the place I'm moving to. It's beautiful, right? I would love to have walks in the forest. I'd love to take women kayaking, right? And then we come back to the studio and we do exercises, right? I can see it being a whole wellness retreat. So that's something, that's my aspirational goal that I would like to work towards.
Okay. All right. So expanding your wellness coaching to nature, which is great. Having women retreats where you have a group of women all together, focusing on what they want to do with their lives, which is just as great. And then just introducing them to something new, or even reintroducing them to something that they never had, or they may have had and really just didn't fulfill. And
yeah,
I mean, that's
exactly.
That's a great thing. So right now you're focusing on getting your clientele built up. Is there something else coming up that you might want to share that maybe those that watch this after the live stream may be interested in?
Well, I'm definitely always working with one-on-one clients, and I'm doing what I call a creative prescription. So I'm actually, I mentioned running a group program, which had set curriculum, and now I'm doing it almost more free form, and I'm doing it like personalized medicine, right? Like I'm tailoring the exercises to what that client's personal challenges are, her hurdles and obstacles, and it's going to be fun. It's something a little new, because before I was working on developing the curriculum, trying that out, and now I'm expanding it. And so definitely, if anyone's interested in working with me, reach out to me. And there's always a wait list for my group because I run it as a cohort.
Okay.
So yeah, those are, and again, everything's on the website, or they can just email me. My email's on there as well too.
Okay, so so for those that are interested, when you reach out to Lexi and you're watching this podcast on YouTube, after the live stream that we're on right now, let her know that you heard about it through the podcast, because that way she knows that she did reach out to someone. Okay. I'm not saying it to just, gain points or anything off of it. I'm saying it because if I'm making a difference, and you go to Lexi and like, Lexi, I saw this podcast on the Life with Joey Calvo podcast, and I was interested in, learning how to be better and so on. And, then I know I did something good. And then, of course, Lexi will come back and email me and say, Joey, you wouldn't believe, all of a sudden, right after we did this podcast, like 30 people came to me. I'm going to exaggerate a little bit. But 30 people came to me and said they watched the podcast on YouTube and they were interested. And I just wanted to thank you for it. And, of course, like I said, I'm exaggerating it because rarely that happens. But
we got to put it out to the universe, right? Yeah, I think that's great.
Yeah, but like I said, if I made a difference to at least one person that reaches out to you, I can say I did my job, and especially now with this podcast going on radio and TV, I'm gonna probably reach out to all my previous guests if they're interested in really expanding, because to give you an idea, folks, of what's really going on, okay, in reference to the radio and TV that's happening here in Philly, okay, there's about 1 million people plus here in Philly that these stations reach out to. So that's the first step we're taking, is bringing everybody out. And I may pull this episode out and throw it on through the radio and the TV and so on. Of course I gotta probably make some edits to it, which I doubt, because I don't really edit these. I just throw them out there, and but definitely I might just throw this out as a segment out there, radio, TV, and like I said, reaching out to, like I said, 1 million people. But at the same time, we're looking for a national sponsor, because we are hopefully taking it from Philadelphia. So Lexi could wind up being out in Atlanta, Boston, Chicago, LA, and Seattle, if everything can go that way. And believe me, we would go from maybe 1 million to 30 within a year. Would I like to see that? Heck yeah.
That would be pretty amazing.
And I know Lexi would love to hear that, because then, if this was to air through the radio, her website would be bombarded, at that point, with people wanting to improve their lives. So it's always the best idea to take advantage. This may be small stuff right now, but this podcast is really expanding. And, like I said in the beginning, it's going to be on radio and TV in Philadelphia. We're aiming for the summer. It may happen by Memorial Day if I'm blessed enough on it. And I will definitely say that I will do my best to put this episode in the slot somehow. And so that way, at least Lexi will reach Philadelphia to start, and tapping that Philadelphia market in reference to her, her services. And then, the sky's the limit after that.
I love thinking of planting seeds, right? Like,
yes.
If you think of the dandelion things flying out there, you make a wish, all the dandelion little things, seedlings float out there, and maybe they'll sprinkle Philadelphia. And you're right, maybe it'll go as far as LA. That would be, I'm on the West Coast. That would be phenomenal.
And then on top of that, the other ideas that run through my head so much are live events, to where like Alexandra would be flown to Atlantic City to meet with fans. Maybe if she has followers here in the Philadelphia area that are interested in getting to know her and wanting to meet her, and maybe even chat with her about what to do in their lives. That's another thing that I would love to make happen. So like I said, I'm the seed's being planted. No, correction. The seed was planted as of last week. The watering is started Saturday, and it's going to go through a little bit before that little stem starts coming out and starts to grow. So my bridge right now, even though I'm a male, my bridge right now is I'm not even looking at where I stand in my life, because my life has had its ups and downs. My focus now is this podcast, because one thing I will say, and I've realized that God wanted me to continue this podcast. So what I'm seeing at the other end of the bridge right now, I can say I've taken a couple steps already on it. Is, like I said, radio, TV, live events like meet and greets, and even if Lexi wanted to come on here and because I actually did let a former guest come out here and do an actual seminar that lasted 6 hours, just to let you know. It was a 6-hour seminar. And believe me,
that's a lot of talking.
Yeah. Oh, well, all I did was just play the slides for the guy. Okay, for the guests. They did all the talking. I just was like, okay, click, 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 click. But if Lexi decides she wants to do a seminar here, the door's open.
Amazing.
So
I might wait till the snow melts, but
it melted here. Matter of fact, just to give you an idea, folks, it's supposed to be in the 30s today. Okay. Get this. 30s today, 40s with a wintry mix in the morning, and then near 70 by Sunday.
Wow. Spring is on its way.
Yeah.
Yes.
I mean, it's jumping from the 40s on Tuesday to 50s to 60s, and it may even go into next week in reference to that. So, believe me, most of the snow has melted here. Matter of fact, I know in my neighborhood, as I'm looking out at it, it definitely melted. But, like I'm saying, is the door is open for lots of opportunities coming out. And like I said, my bridge is I'm seeing those opportunities. Like I said, I've taken those couple steps, and I'm taking another step tonight in reference to the TV part to it. So, I mean, this podcast has made progress. It took 7 years to do it. Okay. We have
7 years to the overnight success. Yes.
Yeah. 7 years to what could have been done 7 years ago if I knew about it. And I just to even share, I came across that community access media organization by accident. I just walked by it one day because it's in Center City. It's right near the Independence Visitors Hall, Independence Mall, and everything. So, I mean, I just came across it by accident when I was working for Amazon. Because I stopped at the Dunkin' Donuts at the corner. And my addiction, quote unquote. But just one morning, I walked by, and I'm like, what is this place? And it got to me. And I was like, you know what? Eventually, I see myself here. I see myself here. And lo and behold, I was blessed enough to make it happen. And I could not be through the roof of where it's going. And like I'm saying, I would love to bring Lexi for the ride. I would love to bring all my former guests for the ride on it. So that's why I am saying, as this goes on and we look and we expand even more, yes, we're looking for a national sponsor to take it out syndication wise, throughout the country. Even if it's on a non-commercial radio station like, this one. Or on Philly Cam TV. Okay. But I want, and that's my bridge. My bridge is everything that I'm saying right now is on the other side, and I'm about a quarter of the way there.
But you're on the bridge, so
I'm
that's
on
what
the bridge.
matters.
I am physically on the bridge, and I am, for once, and I'm going to be 55 in over 3 weeks. Okay, and yes, just to give you folks an idea, I am doing a birthday podcast, but it's not going to be from the regular studio. That's the hint I'm going to give to it, because I did plan something good for that. But by that point, I will have more to share of what's going on in reference to the radio and the TV. But at the same time, like I said, I want to pull former guests and bring them really into the Philadelphia market. So, like I said, if Lexi decides she wants to come to me and say, Joey, I would like to do a seminar on, via your podcast. Let's make it happen.
Amazing.
Okay. I mean, in reference to that though, because normally I do podcasts Mondays, Tuesdays, and Thursdays. So if you came to me and like I said, the former guest that I did, the 6-hour one, we did that on a Saturday. Okay. I'm open to doing that if you want a Saturday. Okay. Per se, for an example, or you wanted a Friday. Just give me an idea how long you want to make it and, how you want to do it. I'll make it. I'll let it.
No, I have to let that percolate in my brain
to
figure out how that.
Because I mean, because even though, frankly, I'm out of questions in reference to this, and I'm just dragging this on a little bit more because, of what I'm looking forward to and what, like I said, what my bridge is right now and what my intentions are once I get on that other side, okay, is that I really would like to make this podcast very worthwhile. I mean, it's not gonna be like a Kylie, like Kylie Kelsey or a Joe Rogan or anybody else. But I would like to continue making these podcasts as informational as possible. And if it takes a 3-hour or a 6-hour webinar on it, it's going to be great. It's going to benefit the person because, they have that opportunity to really reach out. Now, if it gets on radio and TV at that point, I got to edit it down to hours because they only allow me like 1 or 2 hours on the radio or maybe an hour on TV. It depends on, what I can get scheduled for. But if I have to breaking it down that way, understood. But at the same time, it's getting out to at least 1 million people.
I can't even wrap my brain around that.
Yeah. But
if you imagine 1 million people in front of you, boy, that's a lot of people.
Yeah. And especially, and especially on top of that, now this is something that I haven't said yet in reference to, ta-da, it's going to be a live call-in show at that point. So, and wait a minute, there's more. Not only will those watching or listening in Philadelphia get to call in. So I'm going to ask Lexi the question this way. True or false? Do you think that this podcast will still be streamed while it's being simulcasted on radio and TV?
Yes, why not?
That's the correct answer. It will be. So when this happens, and believe me, the studio is actually really interesting. I may look like Howard Stern by then, quote unquote. No, sorry, Howard. I can't be you. Okay,
you just got to be Joey. You just got to be Joey.
Yes. No, I know, but I'm being having my fun off of that. But when I was at the studio for the radio orientation, and I saw what the studio looked like, I was like, yeah, it's going to be perfect because I can link. Because there's, and just to give you an idea of the studio, the board's in front of me. There's a computer to the side of me. So in reference to the YouTube, you might see a side of me, but there's cameras right around, the actual spot itself, the actual seat where, I would be at. So definitely is going to be amazing. I could say that. Like I said, when I saw it, I was like, plus, if I brought guests into the studio, I did a town hall on scleroderma where I had 5-6 people, like 4 or 5 people, besides myself, doing talking about scleroderma. I could have those 4 or 5 people sitting in the studio. Because to the left of, I'm facing it this way. This, the actual board and operations and everything's right here. There's 2 chairs on the outside, along that spot. And then there's a little table to the left, and there's 5 microphones right there. And it's a small looking table, just to give you an idea. But that studio could hold 5 people in reference to it.
So you could have a panel conversation.
Yeah,
that would be exciting.
Yeah. And then the main studio that could be used for TV. Wow. I will say this. And this was an idea I had originally thought of some time ago. I mentioned my 55th birthday coming up. Well, I actually have a GoFundMe campaign going on right now to really support the podcast more than me now. At the time, it partially would have been me because I was unemployed at the time when I started it. But now that this process and that bridge is being walked on, okay, I was going to do my 55th birthday at a restaurant. Just like Howard Stern did for his birthday. He did his in a strip club. I was doing mine at a restaurant in New Jersey because I knew the owner. And he was working out something for me. And plus, of course, I couldn't do it without him being in it. But I was going to have all my family and friends and former guests together. And I was going to do a live podcast right there at the restaurant on my 55th birthday. I mean, the menu was going through my mind, and all the costs and the hotel room, and there was a hotel nearby to where everybody would stay. I mean, unfortunately, though, they would have been paying their own way in reference to that, and their own airfare, because my budget would have gone through the roof if I did that. But that's what I wanted to do. This main studio that I looked at on Saturday, it made me think of that restaurant. It's that big.
Oh, wow.
It's that big. I could do a live audience, podcast-wise, in that main studio, TV-wise. Okay? All I have to do is just move all the chairs around, try to come up with, there's couches and sofas and chairs and tables and stuff. And, the cameras are all on wheels. So all I got to do is, focus it. Even though the cameras would be at me, but they could be turned to be faced at everybody in the audience.
Oh, yeah. You could pan the audience.
Yeah. That's what I'm saying. And eventually, I would like to make that happen. But right now, like I said, my bridge is where it's starting right now, where it's at right now in reference to steps, is in reference to the the radio, the TV in Philadelphia to start, and Lexi, I could suggest this. Oh, I do have one more question for you.
Okay.
And now that I've said all this, have you ever thought about doing your own podcast or something like this?
I have. Yeah, that's part of my future vision is I do want to actually make my office with, acoustic tiles. So I could do a podcast down the road. That is definitely, I can see that as part of my vision because I think it'd be just, I love talking to people like this, especially, I'm on the West Coast. You're in Philly,
Yeah. Well, what can I say to this? If I told you, you could. I'm going. Yes, I'm going to spill the beans on this. Okay. How much do you think it's costing me right now for doing what I'm doing?
Oh, I'm not a numbers girl. I don't know.
Take a guess. Just take a guess.
I don't know. $100 an episode to do? I don't know. Just throwing that out there.
Okay. You said 100. Minus 100. 0.
Okay.
Here's why. You know the link I gave you? Remember I said I did a town hall where I had 5 other people besides me? It didn't cost me anything for that. The only time it cost me more is saying if I did it on YouTube and Instagram or YouTube and Facebook or anything more than just YouTube. Okay? Getting guests for what your podcast would be didn't cost me anything. Alexandra or Lexi, sorry.
That's fine.
Reached out through a website to me. She saw that this podcast was interesting enough to be on, and she, reached out and said, "Hey, I'm interested in being a guest." And I got picky because there are, believe it or not, Lexi, just to give you an idea, Lexi was like, I'll tell you right now. In the last one that was done, the last time my podcast was put on the newsletter, Lexi's number 30. Okay? Out of maybe 50. Now, if Lexi reached out to me in May, oh boy. Let's just say there was about 130 people. And I haven't even touched all of them. Or no, correct.
I feel flattered now that I made it.
Yeah. Yeah, that's because there was a second run. And I had that feeling that that website is going to reach out in May if I want more guests. And now, like I said, being with this going on TV and radio, I'm not holding anything back anymore. But, like I'm saying, I just told you the most cost-effective way to start.
You did. So I got to work that into my vision more than a vision. Plant those seeds.
Because like I said, this platform is really good. And matter of fact, just to give you an idea as well, as when I went to that place, you think they use this platform? So it blended right in. So everything just blended right into it. Like I said, now we just got to take this from being on just YouTube. And I am going to look at cost to expand it to where it's going to be simulcast on YouTube, Facebook, and Instagram, as well as the TV and radio. Okay. Plus, the radio station is also on Mixcloud. So if you went to mixcloud.com and you typed in WPPM-LP, you will see all the shows that are uploaded from all the hosts on the station. Well, this podcast will be next into that uploading. So, more details to follow. And so, everything I'm saying right now, I'm letting out all the secrets. This is because I have been learning that 2026 is actually my year, and it hasn't let me down a little bit. I have a little setback, but it's rebuilding. But in reference to the podcast, it was like Elon Musk put it in a SpaceX rocket and sent it off into space right away. Okay, that's where the podcast is going. So, if you go on the GoFundMe, you can search under Joseph Calvo or Life with Joey Calvo. I don't know if it's under that, but if you go under Joseph Calvo in the search, it will state going places or something. I don't remember what the title was to it, but if you go there and you want to be part of where this is going, all donations are appreciated. Okay, I truly appreciate that help, because this is for the podcast. I don't think of me anymore in reference to it. This is now that this podcast is on that bridge, like I said, and is taking that step. And I apologize that I'm taking more away from Lexi about it, but at the same time,
Hey, we get to see behind the curtain. That's
Yeah,
always exciting.
yeah, well, yeah. But at the same time, I'm introducing Lexi to behind the scenes of something that she may be interested in doing.
It is. It's totally a wish list.
Yeah.
It's nice seeing somebody who's ahead of me on the journey, right?
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
totally. Yep.
Yeah. And I always tell people, that yes, I love sharing stories, and yes, I get my feedback of backlash and negative comments saying this is supposed to be about them, not you. Well, guess what? Oops! It's blended together, so you can't say anything about it. Sorry, I had to be immature for a minute. But this is life. This is a progress that I never thought would ever happen. And the support I have, I couldn't believe that I really, truly have. And because of that is where it's at now. And now I have this opportunity to share it even more. And like I said, I'll pull Lexi for the ride. I'll pull like all the previous guests, like Eric Essex, the smooth jazz guitarist. If I can pull Bottle Carol Alt like I did in the beginning, I'd be happy to do that. And I want to. Because I really want them to be part of this journey. And if I could be that part of their journey, so be it. I mean, like I said, I'm opening up the curtains. This may be this background is actually a green screen. This isn't where I really am, because let's just say
this is where I really am. This
yeah,
is my studio.
But what I'm saying is, if I didn't have the podcast logo behind me, your actual office would look about 100,000 times better than where I live. So but like I said, once this gets on the radio, oh my God, you will be amazed at what you will see. And especially when it gets into the main studio. And you think I'm not looking forward to it? I am.
I can see it. I see the sparkles in your eyes when you talk about it.
Oh, yeah. And like I said, the other part, matter of fact, I already submitted previous episodes of this podcast. Some that were 15 minutes to some that were a little over an hour. And I turned around, and yes, I did put a disclaimer to them saying that, there may be some offensive language to it. But I presented them, and the TV part came back, emailed me, and they're like, "Oh yeah, you're coming for the TV orientation. By tonight, you'll be able to submit your proposal for it to be on TV, and what the process is going to be." So yes, I got to prepare to resubmit those 7 episodes I put in, but I will say that the 7 episodes I put in, let's just say it this way, and I'm actually going to go over an hour on this, and I apologize for this, but the episodes I put in were Gregory Jabara from CBS's Blue Bloods. He's been on this podcast. I mentioned Eric Essex, the smooth jazz guitarist. The episode that we did here is in there. The episode with Liz River, who's an adult actress, that's in there. And the most viewed podcast here on YouTube okay, was only 16 minutes long. The young lady is from Kuala Lumpur, and she's like a musician. That's on there. But I also threw some other little things in reference to and the heavy metal band Sepsis. That's in there too. So that's part of the 7 episodes that I threw in for their view. So, like I said, check out mindartwellness.com. Reach out to Lexi. Let her know you heard it on this podcast. Lexi, thank you so much for letting me ramble through it all. But at the same time, I do thank you for sharing your story, your experience. And like I said, I hope to bring you for the ride through this radio TV experience that's coming up. And definitely, if you want to do a seminar, webinar type thing, this podcast will be open to do it.
Well, definitely the TV studio thing sounds super exciting. So
yeah.
Definitely, I'll add that to my wish list for sure.
Yeah. And like I said, just, and you have to start really on where you can get guests if you really want to, in reference to your podcast part, at least. And like I said, start, you've got the tools right now. If you need assistance with it, reach out to me. I'll help you with it.
Awesome.
So, all right.
Really appreciate it.
All right. So thank you everybody for watching the Life with Joey Calvo podcast. God bless you all.